Overwatch 2's newest season dropped a new gameplay feature for the game, that being perks. If you aren't aware what perks do, after gaining a level in Overwatch 2 by either dealing damage or healing, etc., you have the option between two perks, and you would choose 2 out of the 4 perks for each hero has. Some of these perks are minor, just reducing cooldowns or increasing ammo, to major ones that completely change how your abilities work. So in today's video, I decided I want to give my own take on these perks, so I created one new perk for each hero in Overwatch 2. Some of these perks will be more of a minor perk, and some of these perks will be more of a major perk. Now, I will say I'm not a professional game designer, nor should my ideas actually make it into the game. These are all just some silly ideas I came up with, but I'll give my reason of why I think these perks could be useful, or just how fun they could potentially be in the game. So, without further ado, let's start with the tank perks. D.Va's perk is called Lock In. This perk gives it whenever you hit an enemy with booster, restores 75 armor for you. I want to give D.Va this perk since not only add more sustain for D.Va, but also gives booster a perk since she currently doesn't have one. Doomfist's perk is called Overcome Obstacles. This perk gives it whenever you hit an enemy with a fully charged rocket punch, heals you 30 HP or 150 HP at max if you hit all the enemy team. This perk I think would be pretty useful, not just because it'll give Doomfist more sustain, but it also encourages you to want to try to hit multiple people for this perk's full effect. Hazard's perk is called Make Way. Whenever Hazard uses Downpour while in the area, gives him and his allies 50% fire rate. This perk will just help Hazard and his allies secure his kills way better with his ultimate. Junker Queen's perk is called Armor Breaker. This perk makes it whenever you use Carnage, you destroy all forms of armor or self shields, but Carnage will no longer apply the bleed. I like this perk idea since while you are sacrificing some self sustain, in return you're dealing a lot more heavy damage to more of the armored tanks. Malga's perk is called Showstopper. This perk gives you and allies who are in cage fight unlimited ammo. This perk was made since originally Malga had this in his base kit, but it was removed, and I wanted to add that it would also affect allies too, and I think it would help encourage allies to go in Malga whenever he ults. Orisa's perk is called Supercharge. This perk gives Orisa her Overwatch 1 ultimate back. If you only started playing Overwatch 2 and not Overwatch 1, this ultimate was a deployable that when placed down, gives Orisa and her allies a damage boost up to 50%. I made this perk since I like the idea of making old abilities return in perks. Ramatha's perk is called Fight Back. This perk makes it whenever you use block in Nemesis form, each projectile you block you'll gain a stack that increases Pummel's damage. This perk was made since it encourages players to play more defensively and rewards them with extra damage, and since a Nemesis forms lasts a total of 8 seconds, you can still get a good amount of use of it. Reinhardt's perk is called Honor and Glory. This perk makes Reinhardt CC immune during his ultimate casting. This perk may sound simple, but is extremely useful, I say, since most of the tank roster has some way to easily counter Reinhardt during his ultimate. There are still some ways he can still get his ultimate counter even with this perk like shields, but I think it will give Reinhardt a better edge. Roadhog's perk is called Hooking Up. This perk gives it whenever you hook an enemy, your next shot with Scrap Gun will deal 50% more damage. This perk, while makes Roadhog one-shot potential way more stronger, I think it'll be a perk that most people would enjoy having. Sigma's perk is called Black Hole. This perk changes Sigma's ultimate into a black hole. This will be a deployable ultimate with 2 circles, one center and one outer. Enemies in the outer circle will take damage and be slowly pulled into the center. Enemies who enter into the center circle will be executed. I made this perk since I think it would be an interesting way to change up his ultimate, since I think his kit overall is pretty solid for me. Winston's perk is called Primal Slam. This gives you additional ability called Primal Slam. This ability makes it where you deal 80 damage and slam down opponents who are airborne in front of you. I want to make this perk since how much knockback you're doing while in Primal Rage. You can maybe do a combo with this ability, such as juggling your opponent upwards, then slamming them down, then repeating the cycle. Wrecking Ball's perk is called Grand Slam. This perk makes it whenever you use Pile Driver, you no longer knock up your opponents, but instead root them and deal 50 extra damage. I want to make this perk since you may deal a little bit less hard CC, but you gain more damage in return. Last for the tanks is Zarya's perk called Bubble Chain. This perk makes it whenever you bubble yourself or an ally, any ally nearby will also be bubbled. This will give Zarya more protection to her team, and not where I have to sacrifice one bubble to protect one ally when you might need multiple. Now let's go through the damage hero perks. Ashe's perk is called Sharpshooter. This perk refunds 25% of Dynamite's cooldown if you shoot it in the air. I want to make this perk as it rewards you if you hit Dynamite in the air, and I think some ability combos that might be a little bit difficult for some people to perform should reward you well. Bastion's perk is called Turret Barrier. This perk gives Bastion a 400 HP self barrier when in turret form. This perk was made to a reference to old Bastion, and I'm talking old Bastion. Whenever he was added, this was in his base kit, but with a more generous health shield. Cassie's perk is called Guns Blazing. This perk makes it whenever you use combat roll, your next primary shot with Peacekeeper will ignite your opponent. I made this perk since not only give Cassidy some more damage, but it's a fun way to attribute the meaning of Guns Blazing. Echo's perk is called Air Beam. This perk makes it whenever you use Focusing Beam in the air, you gain a movement speed buff. I figure this will be helpful to keep up with some of the more mobile heroes while trying to finishing them off with Focusing Beam. Genji's perk is called Master Deflection. This perk allows Genji to regenerate 1 ammo per projectile he deflects, with ultimates fully replenishing his ammo. I figured this would be a good way for Genji to get back being aggressive right after using his defensive ability. Hanzo's perk is called Dragon Surge. This perk gives Hanzo and his allies a movement speed buff when nearby dragons strike. I figured this would be a new form of utility with his ult rather than being just a full damage ultimate. Junkrat's perk is called Cluster Bombs. This perk gives Junkrat a new ability, allowing him to hold down and right click to charge up his next shot. The longer the charge, the more bombs you will fire and will cost him his ammo. I want to make this perk since it would give more burst damage for Junkrat, but also could help him against more of the flank heroes by just bursting them down with a single shot. Mei's perk is called Frost Bomb. This allows you whenever you reactivate Ice Wall, it will explode, dealing damage and freezing your opponents. This perk will just add some little bit more interesting gameplay elements to Mei's kit, like you just wall off the enemy, then activate the detonation, then finish them off. Freya's perk is called Startup. This perk makes it whenever you use Rocket Jump, enemies nearby you will take damage. This perk can be used just to deal a little bit of extra damage if you're about to be flanked, or it could just be a funny way to get an elimination. Reaper's perk is called Death Comes. This makes it whenever you use Wraith, you go through walls. I want to make this perk since not only it'll be fun to spook the enemy team by playing peekaboo with him, but also be useful for Reaper to escape from player-made walls. Soldier's perk is called Disruptor Vortex. This perk changes Disruptor Shot's effect. Instead of slowing enemies, this will slowly pull them into its center. I think this perk would be pretty useful since you can get enemies closer together, and with a fully charged railgun, will deal some massive damage to them. Soldier 76 perk is called Combat Medic. This perk gives a damage mitigation buff to you and allies whenever you are in Bitonic Field. This perk would be nice to give soldiers some more team play, or you could just use this more selfishly. Sombra's perk is called Stealth Operation. This perk gives it whenever you are crouching for a second, you become invisible for a short duration. This perk would be useful since it'll help Sombra be extra sneaky, and in a way brings back her old invisibility passive. Symmetra's perk is called Shield Generator. This perk replaces Symmetra's teleporter with a shield generator that will give her and allies shield health every second when you're nearby. I want to make this perk since it'll be a fun way to bring back Symmetra's old kit while still being something pretty useful. Torbjorn's perk is called Armor Pack. This perk gives back Torbjorn his old passive in a way. Whenever Torbjorn deals damage with his gun or turret, scrap will be dropped. Torbjorn can use the scrap and convert it into armor packs for him and his allies. I want to add this perk since it would not only add team play, but it's also a fun way to bring back older versions of heroes back. Tracer's perk is called Deja Vu. This perk makes it where Tracer can use her ultimate at 50% ult charge, but the damage will be reduced by half. I think this perk, while having a huge drawback, isn't too bad since you can just fire a couple shots, then throw your bomb, or just wait for full damage at max ult charge. Venture's perk is called Dive Down. This perk makes it whenever you aim downwards with Drill Dash, your damage is increased heavily. I want to add this perk since it has some good quick thinking and decision making to perform with this perk, and the reward I think is worth it. Last of the damage is Widowmaker, and her perk is called Spark Spider's Bite. This perk makes it whenever you are at full charges with Widow's Kiss, you will poison your target and reveal them for 2 seconds. This perk I think would be pretty nice since not only gives Widow some more damage, but the reveal could help you out if you only body shot your target, and if they are alive you can have an idea where they may be going. Lastly, to the supports. Anna's perk is called Pickup. This perk makes it whenever you hit an enemy with Sleep Dart, then melee them, you refund its cooldown by half. I want to make this perk since it will be nice for Anna to get her Sleep Dart faster. Baptiste's perk is called Amplified Field. This perk makes it where if Baptiste or his allies go through Amplification Matrix, will gain a movement speed buff, and if enemies go through it, they will be slow. I want to make this perk since it can add some interesting gameplay decisions, like you could try to place your ultimate behind the enemy, and once they walk back, they will be slowed, and they'll start take increased damage from the ultimate. Brigida's perk is called Crusader Teachings. This perk makes it whenever you use Shield Bash, you will stun your opponent instead of knocking them back. However, you will not be able to use your shield for a couple of seconds. I want to make this perk since I like the risk but reward idea. Sure, you will have a more heavy CC that Brig could easily 1v1 her opponent, but your shield would be down, and if they got backup or you don't finish them quickly enough, you could be in trouble. Alari's perk is called Solar Link. This perk makes where your ult fire, instead of being a straight beam, it will lock onto an ally and also heals more. I want to make this perk mainly to help people heal allies much better, but also sometimes allies just move too much, so you may end up wasting more of your charge than healing your allies. Juno's perk is called Orbital Boost. This perk changes Juno's ultimate Orbital Way to increase the damage boost from 30 to 50%, but you will lose 20% of the healing. This perk I like since while you sacrifice some healing, you are boosting your team's damage and will be used more to push at your enemies. Jericho's perk is called Suzu Bomb. This perk changes Protection Suzu, making it no longer heal allies or make them immune to damage, but can now be used on enemies, dealing damage and increase negative effects duration on them. This perk would make Kiriko play more aggressively than she already is, and while the trade-off may not be worth it, if you have a more heavy CCT, then this perk can shine pretty well. Lifeweaver's perk is called Flower's Mark. This perk makes Life Grip now mark an ally for a duration. During this duration, if the ally presses the F key, they'll be pulled to Lifeweaver regardless of distance or line of sight. One of the issues people have with Lifeweaver's kit is his Life Grip, using it when they don't want it to be used. Now with this perk, Lifeweaver can give his allies a safety line where they can choose to be pulled. Lucio's perk is called Sound Stomp. This perk makes it whenever you sound barrier on top of an enemy, they will be instantly killed. I want to make this perk since not only is a nod to an old experimental where you can actually do this, but also seems like a fun thing to try and do. Mercy's perk is called Battle Angel. This perk makes it whenever you are in Guardian Angel, you gain a fire rate buff. I want to make this perk mainly for the silliness behind it, and also I just want to see Mercy pull out the Glock more. Mario's perk is called Experimental Orbs. This perk makes when you can fire up to 3 orbs when using biotic orbs. This perk is something you could equip during the Junkenstein's lab event, and I was hoping that would make a return for Moira. It did, but I would still like to see it be added, and while you are technically dealing less damage or healing for 1 orb, with all 3 orbs, you will be dealing more damage and healing. Last of the heroes is Zenyatta's perk called Vampiric Orb. This changes Discord Orb from enemies taking more damage to you and allies' life stealing off of the enemy. I want to make this perk since not only gives Zenyatta and his allies more sustain without sacrificing Zenyatta's aggressive playstyle. But those are all of my perks that I came up with for Overwatch 2, and what do you think? Do you like some of these ideas or do you don't? Let me know down in the comments below. But also let me know your ideas of perks you came up with. I love to hear them. But that was for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button and go to the channel. Hitting the subscribe button, definitely appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.